Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning into this fireside chat about personalized advertising in a privacy-conscious world. My name is Christine Warner, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Partnership Management at Facebook. And joining me is Mollie Spilman, the Chief Revenue Officer of Oracle Advertising. Now, personalization and privacy are often presented as two concepts at odds with one another when it comes to digital advertising, but that isn't the case. People can see content that's more relevant to them, and businesses can reach people who are more likely to take actions that they care about, all without compromising people's privacy. Now, we're in the early days of this, and it's a large movement in advertising, one that looks to preserve valuable, personalized experiences and people's privacy. And it's going to take a lot of effort and collaboration over the next few years to get this right. And today we're going to talk about how. And for more than 4 decades, Oracle has delivered innovation upon which entire industries have been built. In fact, more than 30,000 organizations of all sizes rely on Oracle Cloud applications to run the most important front and back office business operations. Oracle Advertising Solutions works across audience, context, and measurement to give marketers the data and tools they need for every stage of the marketing journey. And Mollie is here with us today. So excited to have you here, Mollie.
Thank you, Christine. I'm so glad to be here. I am the Chief Revenue Officer at Oracle Advertising, and now added new responsibility for the marketing side. I have been in the advertising industry and the digital part of it for over 20 years. I've also been a CMO myself. So for those of you out here who, are navigating this new environment, I know some of the questions and challenges that you're trying to address, and hopefully this conversation will give you some insight into how Facebook and Oracle are thinking about the world. And, this is just one of many conversations, and we know that change brings uncertainty, and there's definitely a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the future of reaching addressable audiences. But there's a lot of innovation, and with change also brings opportunity. So Christine and I are pretty excited to share some of our thoughts with you today.
Absolutely. And as far as the opportunity, I think maybe before we even get into that, we should talk about the change that's going to happen, Mollie, and what we're seeing from our seats. So for those who aren't as familiar, can you break down why this conversation is so important now for advertisers and businesses? What's happening? What do you see from a consumer standpoint?
Yeah, so if we start on the consumer side, there's been a movement for people to be more in control of their own information, their data. They want transparency, they want to be in control. And really what's kind of accelerated this is the global pandemic. So over the last 13 months, there's just been an intense rise in people's online habits and behavior, time spent. So you think about how much more you're shopping online, how much more you're working online, how much more you are consuming content online, because we've been in lockdown for 13 months. And so there is a increased need for people to want to understand what's happening with their data. They want transparency when they shop or when they consume content, what's happening with their data. But there's a really interesting balance, and you might even say friction, with how consumers are thinking about content and advertising, because on the one hand, they want to understand what's happening with their data. They want to be controlled of sharing. They want to be in control of sharing it. But, consumers, we hear from our marketing partners and other partners, as well as in feedback directly to Oracle, is that they get frustrated. Consumers seem to get frustrated when they see irrelevant ads. Mm-hmm. And so that's frustrating because they want advertising and content to be the most relevant and personalized. But then on the flip side, if there's advertising and content that's too personal and too relevant, then it raises all these alarm bells. Who's got my information, and how would advertisers know to show this to me? So it really is a unique balance that marketers need to embrace, really, because how do you do both and create this personal connection to an audience or to a person without crossing any type of boundary?
Yeah, and I think the industry is moving to meet these new consumer needs now for privacy, while still offering really incredible personalized experiences that they value. So how do you see the industry evolving? What do you see happening, and how is that actively impacting the clients that you work with?
So, so there's a lot of change happening in the industry. So that's the consumer side. On the business side, we have increased regulation. So most people listening in know about GDPR in Europe and those restrictions. California CCPA is another restriction on the use of data, all with under the guise of privacy. Then you have the advertising identifiers, which are being restricted by Chrome or Safari, iOS 4, Firefox. A lot of providers have really restricted the use of third-party identifiers, which makes it very difficult for advertisers to reach these audiences in a third-party manner. So at Oracle, we've been working with our customers. We have data-driven products. We have a measurement product under the Moat brand name. We have contextual-based solutions. And so for our audience and data products, privacy comes first. And so we have our own proprietary ID graph, which is anonymized information. We're not sharing anything. We don't store it. We don't use it. So we're using some of those techniques to work with our clients to reach those audiences and those prospects. For our measurement and our contextual solutions, they've never used third-party identifiers. So those were built without reliance on those third-party IDs, and they will continue to not need those identifiers. So we're really working with our clients in that manner. And what I've seen in working with our clients, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Christine, is that there's a small amount of people who are just kind of wishing and hoping that this won't be a thing and third-party cookies or mobile IDs won't go away, and we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. But for the most part, and I'm guessing most of the people on this call are really embracing this change and making a plan for a future without these identifiers. And so we work day in and day out, not just with those clients, but with industry bodies and others to try to navigate this new kind of normal in advertising.
Absolutely. And, I think with a lot of these changes that are happening, for example, the iOS 14 changes coming up, how do you think, or what kind of guidance could you give to businesses who are watching this today for what implications we see for data loss now and how they should plan for the future? And what are you doing for that as well?
Yeah, so with iOS, for Oracle, just speaking tactically, we have such a diverse set of partners and partnerships that we're not reliant on one particular platform or operating model or operating service to deliver our business and outcomes to our clients. So to me, that's just, what Apple's doing is just an evolution of the further tightening of data restrictions. But how we're operating at Oracle is that we're just assuming that third-party cookies and mobile IDs, third-party IDs are going away, and we need to plan for a future without them starting yesterday. And that there's going to be more restrictions on the operating systems. And so we should plan for that, and we should work together as an industry and between partnerships, whether it's platforms or direct with brands, to plan for that, reality that's coming sooner rather than later. So that's pretty much how we're operating. So Facebook has built its business around personalized advertising. So there could be the existential question in the room, how is Facebook, navigating around this change in the ecosystem?
Yeah, as a business, we're focused on how we can ensure people's privacy while still supporting a free and open internet. And we want to make sure that we're enabling businesses of all sizes that they can still continue to reach their customers. we're continuing, and we've been doing this for a long time now, investing in transparency and control. And we also know that the rest of the industry will and should continue to regard these principles around transparency and control as a foundation for privacy. But we also recognize as a business that there's a lot more to do. And, there's one reason, that's one of the reasons why we're actually investing in privacy enhanced technologies. And who doesn't love a good acronym when you're talking about the business, but PETs, which allow us to provide personalized advertising while also processing less personal data. And in fact, over the past year, we've been working very closely with the academic community to develop new technologies and methods that leverage PETs that will enable advertising use cases. We've also opened up some open source technologies that industry constituents can leverage to build privacy-focused advertising solutions. And I won't get into a lot of the technical infra that supports this, but we're looking into areas like blind signatures, private matching, randomized controlled trials. And that's to enable advertising. But when we're talking about signal, there's also part of this that's associated with measurement. And so we're also participating in industry initiatives like the WFA's cross-media measurement initiative, which will help to build privacy-focused measurement systems that enable advertisers to measure their outcomes through advertising use cases. So this is just a part of the solution. As you said, we're very much in early days, and it is really going to take the industry moving forward together in order for us to continue to align with the industry changes, privacy needs of consumers, and regulation as well. Those are the areas that we're investing. But where is Oracle taking it now with these industry changes? How is Oracle navigating through these issues?
So we're taking a similar approach, and we're looking, I talked about some of our solutions already that don't rely on third-party identifiers. We're also building out, continuing to build out our ID graph, which I said before is anonymized. We're working with industry bodies just as you guys are, IAB Tech Lab, Project REARC, Partnership for Responsible Addressable Media, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, and really anything that just promotes, any group that's looking to promote consumer privacy. So working with industry bodies, working with our clients, anything that can help protect consumers' personal information while at the same time help marketers reach the audiences they need to reach at the right time in the right place with the right message. And so, instead of avoiding, what's going on in the industry, really embracing it and coming together and collaborating with everybody who's open to it, honestly, who has an idea about what the future might look like.
Yeah, and I see that as well. We talked about some of the ways that we're collaborating with the industry. I guess, are there any technologies that Oracle is leaning into as well for this future state that we're all mapping to?
So, again, we're looking at expanding our ID graph. We're looking at other ways of identifying audiences and people through registration-based approaches, through panel-based approaches that, were used widely in the past, and using more approaches using machine learning, and looking at the connected TV space and how you connect between CTV and over-the-top connections. And so really kind of digging into all of those areas and trying to double down on our innovation that we could bring to the industry.
Yeah, and I think we're talking a lot here in broad terms around the technologies, the ways that we need to collaborate across the industry. Do you have any specific examples that you can share for how Oracle is working to drive this privacy enhanced approach to bringing your business to your clients?
Yeah, one sweet spot for us is in 2018, Oracle bought Grapeshot, which is a contextual intelligence product. And it really was kind of ahead of its time. And it wasn't kind of the contextual based advertising of the past in a lot of mediums, and advertising in environments that seem like somebody might be interested, that they're somehow related, but really using data-driven approaches, looking at the content on the page as well as the mindset of the consumer on the page. And so we've done a lot of innovation since we bought this business in 2018, not knowing that, that between privacy regulations and all of the technology restrictions on third-party identifiers were going to be a thing. We've been developing this product over the last 3 years, and we have a number of clients who are seeing, amazing results, just as good as they would with third-party audience delivery and targeting. And so we're innovating, we're using data actually to inform the contextual advertising, the contextual segments that we're using for some of our top advertisers. And, really when the pandemic hit, as well as all these regulations and technology restrictions on identifiers, we were in the right place at the right time as a business because we had been building these solutions. And we're just seeing incredible growth in that area. And we're going to continue down that road because it's so valuable. And we're really seeing our advertising as well as our partners, platform partners, really lean in because it works on the advertising side. It works for our platform partners who are helping us to distribute our products, as well as publishers, programmatic platforms, et cetera. And it's an exciting time for, contextual intelligence.
Yeah, and in some respects, it also points to investing early in strategies that sort of future-proof the business in many regards.
Exactly.
It's amazing to see the fruits that it's bearing for your business.
Exactly. I would love to ask you, when you're thinking about your clients, how are you thinking about kind of future-proofing and building solutions that can help your largest clients and your many, many small clients? I'm sure everybody on the call would love to hear what Facebook is doing.
Yeah, like we saw this massive shift of businesses moving from offline to the online in the past year. In fact, more businesses made the digital transformation in the first 4 months of the last year than they did in the previous 10. So in many respects, we're in a unique position where we want to help businesses continue to drive we want to help businesses be discovered, help them drive their business growth, and we want to do it in a way that maintains privacy. And in many areas, businesses look to us in order to drive conversions. They're looking to us to drive business results that grow their business. And for businesses that are really invested in areas like web conversion campaigns, we created a tool called the Conversions API tool that is a way for businesses to directly connect from their server to Facebook. It reduces reliance on cookies, which we know are going away as an advertising mechanism. And businesses who are leveraging Conversions API, they can connect directly with Facebook via server-side connection to be able to share information with their CRM, qualified lead information that they may have gathered over the phone, or significant customer interactions happening elsewhere, online or offline. And we do this in a way that makes the business that we're working with responsible for getting the appropriate opt-ins for sharing that data. Now, the reason why this is really important is it allows for businesses to continue to provide personalized advertising, but in a way that protects privacy, because the API is designed in such a way that honors our user privacy controls. So for example, if a customer uses our off Facebook activity privacy tool to limit whether their data gets passed to our platform, we honor those decisions via the Conversions API. And we want to ensure that we're continuing to build products that provide customers with the relevant experiences that they love. You touched on this at the beginning. Consumers and people want to continue to have personalized experiences, but they want to have the balance with privacy. And so we want to continue to provide this through what we build in a way that has appropriate data transparencies and controls in order to ensure that we're walking that balance, both for businesses as well as the people on our platform.
Well, it sounds like from what you're saying that all of this data privacy focus actually can lead to a win-win for businesses and consumers, right?
Yeah, and especially if you have the right transparencies and controls, right? We believe that we can sustain the benefits of personalized advertising while honoring people's privacy. And we're working with the industry, and we've talked about a lot of the ways that we're doing that in order to innovate new ways of doing just that, from the conversions API tool that I just spoke about to some of the work that we're doing with the academic organizations for privacy enhanced technologies. And while we're working on other ways in order to continue to innovate, we want to ensure that businesses are leading with us and they're taking steps now in order to build better experiences while respecting their privacy choices. It's not just us, we're looking to the industry to move as well. And investing in this work now will make it easier in order for all of us to address future regulatory requirements, enhanced transparency and control requirements that are going to come along with many of the changes that we discussed at the top of our discussion here today, Molly. And I'd love to hear from you what you think is a win-win, because obviously when there's change, there's new opportunities that come from it. So I'd love to hear from you what you see as being win-win from Oracle's perspective.
Yeah, I think, we're able to really put the value back on first party data. And so really work for the brands, make sure that there are solutions that they can grow their first party data, that they can protect their first party data, and create those advertising and consumer experiences that are authentic, that are personalized, and that really can be a win-win for businesses, because our businesses, want to grow. We want our clients' businesses to grow. And if we all take this customer-centric approach, then we're really going to be able to maintain the trust, but create that, deeper trust and win-win situation for everybody, which is awesome.
Yeah, and it really comes back to what you just said, which is putting the customer first in everything that we do. So beyond building for the solutions that we mentioned, what do you think tech players such as ourselves, the Facebook, Google, Amazon, what do you think we can do to help enable a more personalized and privacy compliant future in marketing?
I think, just really at the highest level, it's just ensuring that transparency and trust. I think Facebook has done a great job of really holding itself to a higher level when it comes to this topic. And so I think really for all the tech players, not just Facebook, but continuing to put the customer or the consumer first, and working with the industry bodies, working with partners like Oracle and our advertisers directly to come together as one unit to solve the balance that we talked about before between personalization and privacy, using transparency as a foundation.
So, we've talked a lot about the future. We've talked about the ways that our businesses are readying, but if you could impart any wisdom, both from your role at Oracle and 20 plus years in both ad tech, but also being a CMO, what do you believe that businesses in the audience should do now?
I think there's, tactically probably three things, and I bet everybody who's listening to this call is doing them. One is just take an audit of your data strategy, your policies, the touch points with consumers, whether it's your known customers or prospects, and really take stock of all of those connections and what your data strategy is. I know at Oracle, we actually did an audit with some of our partners in one of our data co-ops, and we reviewed all of the paperwork and their privacy policies and helped them update them so that, it's not on Oracle's, it's not their responsibility, but we look at it as like anybody we partner with, we want to look at we hope them to have the same policies and restrictions and safeguards that we do. And I know Facebook does that too. So one would be like, just make sure you do an audit of your data strategy, policies, et cetera. And then two is do the same for your partners. Make sure that we're only as strong as our ecosystem. So make sure that your partners have done a data audit and they are being respectful of all of the wishes of their customers and prospects, and make sure that the policies reflect, choice and consent for consumers, because those two things are super important. And then, like I touched on before, really, deepen your capabilities when it comes to first party data. You know, I was talking to a brand the other day who never used to be able to sell their products online due to regulations. And with COVID and only being able to shop online for the most part, those restrictions are gone. And now this company can actually sell their products direct to consumer. And they never had a first party strategy. And so now they need to develop one. So I would say for those businesses, develop one. And for those that already have a first party data strategy, I would deepen it because it's going to become even more important to marketing and advertising going forward.
Yeah, you know, I think if there was one thing that everyone took away, what do you think that one thing, just an action item for tomorrow, what would that be?
Breathe. It's, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. And, you know, it seems like there's a clock ticking and you hear the clock ticking next to you. But, you know, this has been a work in progress for a pretty long time. And it seems like the door is closing for new ideas, but there are so many new ideas. And so really just take a deep breath and then, you know, map out your plan. And this is who we've talked to this week. Here's who's doing what. Here's what our strategy is. We want to have a buttoned up plan by X date and just map it out and roll up your sleeves and make that plan. And, you know, embrace the change instead of avoid it or stress out about it. I think just embrace it because, as I said at the top, I've seen so many changes in this industry, and at the end of the day, they've all been for the good. And so glass half full, I think that's the case. And so, well, if you had one action item, what would you say to everybody?
You know, I think that there's a simple checklist to go through to think through, and it's almost kind of tied to the audit idea that you shared, Mollie, which is there's just a couple of things that businesses can do today to be ready for the changes, but while also being able to ensure that they're driving personalization in a way that helps to drive their business outcomes. And I think the first thing that all businesses should do is make it easy for consumers to understand how their data is shared and used by your business. That's table stakes. The second thing is just to ensure that you understand how the data is acquired, used, and stored, and be sure to have all consent mechanisms in place necessary to use or share it. We've seen the ways that different regulation has impacted this. So it's just so essential for every business to have a handle on that. We also recommend implementing new tools, right? Something like Conversions API that I spoke about, which allows you to establish channels that are browser independent. It's really also important to expand your toolkit. You talked about that as well. What are some of the other ways that you're thinking about leveraging data and also building out your first party data strategy? And finally, explore data collection through valuable experiences, right? We didn't really talk much about this, but there are ways in which you can continue to build out your knowledge of your customers through things like loyalty programs, discounts, VIP programs, things of that sort. So there are a couple of different ways in which you can be ready for the future, but I think the first is taking stock and then identifying how you're going to expand either through partnership or through new solutions that you're building that allow you to better connect with your customer. Before I close, I just want to say, Mollie, I've so appreciated your time in this discussion. I think in many respects, we're at the beginning of what is going to be a very large change for all of us working in the marketing and advertising space. And hearing directly both from your experience and the work that you're doing at Oracle in order to ready businesses for this, I think has been invaluable. So I want to thank you for your time for this fireside chat, and thank everybody for tuning in to hear from us. And we hope that you'll work closely with us as we continue to evolve what is the advertising ecosystem. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, everybody.